So lesson 7 is the sign analysis. I prefer it over the case analysis. I remember using it in calculus. It's a skill that you're going to need. This is sign analysis. I prefer it, like I said, and rarely do we use the case analysis. So unfortunately, you're going to get tested on the case analysis. But in terms of your long-term goal setting for like a calculus course, this is the one skill that I would try to remember or hold on to. Okay, so let's take a look at this function. First of all, we're going to grab the standard or general form here, and we're going to throw it down into the factors. So what's it going to be? X plus 4, x minus 2. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to always have this. You go from this expanded form to this factored form. You have to be factored. And the reason is we're going to be looking at, like, if this whole thing is positive and this whole thing is positive, then this is positive. If this is negative and this is negative, then this is positive. And that's if this sign is positive and this sign is negative, then the whole thing is. And it's really way more easy to understand and take care of. Okay, so let's look on this interval. Okay, let's use my pointer. X less than negative 4 is this way. So you'd have an open circle here and this way. Is the function positive or negative? Positive, right? So you can circle that. Now between the zeros, this one here. Between the zeros. Bigger than negative 4 but less than 2. That's in here. The function is negative, so you can circle that. And then the last one is positive. Okay, so you'd go like this. Plus, minus, plus. And you can see this plus, minus, plus. Okay, and then the solution is going to be the solution for positive will be, where is it positive? X less than negative 4 or x greater than 2. And where is this function negative? Well, when x is less than 2 but bigger than negative 4. Okay, so you have basically two possibilities. The possibilities in the first option is always like an outer portion, the outer portions, and you're going to use the word or. The other possibility is when it's like squished in the middle, and that's where you put the variable in the middle and point the arrows to the left. Okay, Jolene? Okay. All right. And then doing this with algebra. Okay? So sign analysis involves figuring out where it's 0. That's the whole thing. And to do that, we know this. We're going to factor. So what's going to happen here? How do you make 14? 7 and 2. They both got to be negative to get the positive 14 and the negative 9. Okay, the two zeros are 7 and 2. Okay. How does this function, does it open up or open down? Opens up, right? It goes through 2, it goes through 7, and it opens up. Okay, I have the answer already. It's done. That's how easy this is. You know the answer before you do any algebra. It's so easy because you know how this works. They go through the zeros, and you know it opens up or it opens down. Okay, so what's the answer to this? Where is this thing negative? In here, right? The question's done. I haven't done anything yet. All I did is factored. I know where it's going to be negative. It's in here. So I know the answer is going to be less than 7 but greater than 2. I didn't have to do any work except factoring. And I know what this thing looks like. Okay? But to show the work for the sign analysis, which is a good skill for later in calculus, I think it's why they show it to you here, so you've seen it before. Okay, so we have to break this thing into intervals. We use the number line Okay, so we're going to go to the left of 2, to the right of 7, and in between. Okay, so left of 2, right of 7, in between. Pardon me? Is that a rule? What do you mean? Yeah, you have to break the number line into 3 intervals based on the zeros. So based on these, you break the number line, so left of 2, in between, and to the right of 7. And then you look at the sign. In order to look at the sign, you have to look, I'll highlight it for you. You have to look at these factors. That's the whole point of factoring. And you'll see in calculus why we factor. Factoring is very powerful in that course. Okay, so let's take a look using test points. So think of a test points in this interval. Think of any number less than 2. Pick an easy one. What's less than 2 that's really easy? 0. 0 is the easiest. Put in a 0 here. What's the sign of the first term? Negative. Put in a 0 on this one. Left with a negative. What's a negative times a negative always going to be? Positive. And you'll notice that on this interval, the y values are always positive. What's going to happen in between? Okay, pick a test point between 2 and 7. 3? Okay, use 3. What happens if you put 3 on this term? Negative. Put 3 on this term. Positive. What's a negative times a positive? Negative times a positive will be negative. Okay, pick a number bigger than 7. 8. 10. 10 works. Put 10 there. Is it going to be positive? 10 minus 7. Put a 10 there. Is it going to be positive? Yes. What's a positive times a positive? Positive. You get it? This is way easier than case analysis. And it's quicker too. So you're going to be given charts on the test. I usually just use a number line. Okay. Okay, so it says state the solution to where is it less than 0? Where would it be less than 0? It would have to be this one. Why is it this one? Because it came out negative. This right here. Because it came out negative. So you'd use this interval. That's the solution to this problem. Where is this function negative? Well, between 2 and 7. Now, isn't that what we said right at the beginning? Because it's so easy. Case analysis, number line? Maybe. Probably. I don't know, sir. Probably. Okay, let's look at this one. Can this one be factored? Take out x, and you get 8 minus x less or equal 0. Okay, what are the two intervals? 0 and 8, or the two zeros are 0 and 8. Okay, good. Draw a line. Okay, so this one would give us x0, and this one would give us x8. Put those two in. Okay, now use some test points. Okay, here, test -1. This would be negative. This would be positive, because that would be a -1. Minus 1 would be, so negative times a positive would be, negative times positive would be negative. Okay, what are we going to test in between 0 and 8? 1. Good. Test 1. Positive times.
Please excuse this interruption. All spirit wolves who are going on the field trip, please come down to the office. All spirit wolves, please come down to the office.
Okay. Why is this one second term positive? 8 minus 1 would be positive. Good. Now test a value outside of 8. Test 9. Positive and negative. What would that make? Positive times the negative would be negative. Thank you. Does this thing open up or down anyway? Because the negative lead coefficient? So you know that the graph is going to do this anyway. Right? Does it make sense? Okay, now we got to answer the question. What's the question saying? Where is the function less or equals 0? Okay, on this interval where it's negative and this interval where it's negative. So how do we write that? X less or equals 0 or x greater or equal 8. This is what we're looking for. That's the solution. Okay, so test intervals, sign analysis. Okay, so this is the same thing. They show like, I wish that they just did this with sign analysis. These 2 lessons, just sign analysis and get on with our lives. But, so be it. Is that the only thing they have? Okay, let's take a look at this one. Okay, not so easy to factor. It looks like I know 39 divides by 3, so we got to take out a 3. I'm going to take out a negative 3, and you get 2x squared plus 13 minus 6. This is a little bit more reasonable. AC value of negative 12. Thank you. AC value of positive 12, B equals 13. So 12 and 1. Whenever it differs by 1, like it's always the trivial factor. So 12 and 1. So break 13 into 12x plus x. Okay, so you know one of the factors is x plus 6. So we got a negative 3, x plus 6. What's the other one going to be? Taking out a 2x. 2x plus 1. Okay, so there it is. It's factored. You could always do that by hand if you need to verify it further. And now we need to use the sign chart. So you're just going to draw a line and put in the zeros. Okay, so what are the zeros? Negative 6 and a negative half. Okay, so put the smaller one first, obviously. Negative half and, whoops, can't even get my negative straight. Negative 6 and negative half. Okay, put the smaller one first. It's on the number line. Now we can do the testing. Okay, so we're going to use this to test. So I'll highlight it. We're going to use the blue highlight to test. Okay, so let's test. What are we going to test? Negative 7, negative 5, and we'll test 0. You guys okay with those test points? Negative 7 would be in this interval, negative 5 would be in this interval, and 0 would be in this interval. Okay, let's test 0. That's easy. Testing 0. Negative times a positive times a positive. So you have a negative times a positive times a positive. How's that work? Well, do two at a time. What's a negative times a positive? And negative times a positive one more time. Negative. So it's going to be negative on this interval. And does that make sense? Does this thing open up or down? Down. So it's going to look like this. Negative. Put a 0 there, it's just going to be 6. So negative times positive times positive. This here. Do 2 at a time, you get a negative. This guy came down. Negative times positive, negative. Okay, let's jump into the middle. Testing negative 5. Negative times, what goes in this second one? If you put a negative there, negative 5 plus a 6, positive. Put a negative 5 there. That'll be negative 10 plus 1 negative. So how's this going to work out? No. Times the two negatives together, you get a positive, and then positive times a positive is positive. Now out here, testing negative 7. The first one's negative no matter what. What's the second and third term going to be? Putting a negative 7 there, you get negative. Put a negative 7 there, you get negative. What's 3 negatives in a row? Yeah, if you do 2 at a time, you get a positive. Bring this one down. Positive times a negative, it'll be negative. Which is what should be expected with a quadratic opening down. Right? Hopefully this is starting to make sense. Negative on this interval, positive on this interval, and negative on this interval.
Okay, so you know on the right side how we got negative 3 tested and 0 with that? Are the problems that ever go to 1, positive or never?
So you say that again?
Okay, on that side,
Yeah.
tested 0.
Testing 0, yeah.
That part of the problem is that we're keeping going down, would it ever reach 1 or no?
1?
Yeah.
This is going down to negative infinity.
Oh.
Whoa. How? The function is 0 here, and then it continues to decrease forever. Okay? Okay. Need something? Okay, folks, this time for homework. You see, yeah, 1 and 2. And it's saying like sign chart, and it's saying like test intervals. Like, just do it the way I was showing you. Draw a number line and do the testing. Okay. On the test, you're going to get those charts, though. I think they're going to build it for you, and then you just have to show the sign analysis. Okay. So there's a lot in here. So please try to get most of it done. Don't worry about 11 if you don't want to do it. Okay, so good luck. Remember, test is Friday.